I call this regular board meeting to order. The time is 6 o'clock. Today's date is January 23rd, 2024. Can we go ahead and who would like to come up out of the students for the Pledge of Allegiance? And for the
what a brave guy.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
I think all kids should come up. All kids, all students. This is a free dress day tomorrow. All the way up.
All of a sudden the high school I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job, guys.
Item 1D, roll call. Ms. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Borrego.
Present.
Ms. Mendoza.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Mr. Cimental did call ahead and mention that he wasn't able to make it to this meeting. Mrs. Stroud.
Present.
Mrs. Zuniga.
Here.
Item 1E, CISD vision and mission statements.
Ms. Trout and Ms. Barnes, if you could both lead us into our vision and mission statement.
Okay, mission. We provide equitable opportunities to ensure our future-ready students are empowered to explore, learn, grow, and excel.
And our vision statement, lead today, impact tomorrow.
Thank you. Now we'll take us to the next agenda item.
Item number 2A, board honors, honoring the Canopillo ISD Board of Trustees in recognition of Texas School Board Appreciation Month. Presenter, Mr. Gustavo Rodriguez.
Good evening, Board President Rodriguez, members of the board, and Dr. Galaviz. Could you please join me in front of the dais to begin tonight's presentation? Welcome to this special celebration for Texas School Board Recognition Month. Tonight, we gather to honor the dedication and service of our Canopillo ISD Board of Trustees, the board serving the best mall school district in Texas and El Paso's only AAA rated school district. Our board's commitment to the district, our students, and our community truly embodies this year's theme, locally elected, community connected. Tonight's celebration is extra special because we have every campus of the district represented to celebrate our trustees. Campuses and several departments provided small tokens of appreciation that we have gathered in a basket to present to each trustee. Gifts include, and you just dropped it.
That was
The gifts include water bottles, blankets, shirts, aprons, and even a charcuterie board. So let's get started. Let's begin with our board president. Mr. Armando Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, your lifelong dedication to Canutillo ISD, from your early days as a young adult to your valuable leadership today, has shaped the course of our district. You are not just a trustee, you're proof positive that Canutillo ISD transforms lives. Here to present you with your gifts is our newest principal from Damian Elementary School, Ms. Maggie Castillo, and one of her bright students, 4th grader Mason and Chieta. Yes, please, and then we'll take a basket.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to visit us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, individual photos.
Should we scoot down?
That's fine. And then we're going to do a group one at the end.
Photo bomb.
Must have been a teacher. Right here?
Yep.
With this?
With this.
And then, Ms. Rodriguez, you can hand that to Dr. Galavita.
Just don't need it.
Next, we honor our Vice President, Ms. Lucy Borrego. As an experienced educator, Ms. Borrego, you brought high-quality service to the students of El Paso and now to the Canutillo ISD Board of Trustees. Your wisdom guides us in fostering education excellence and will guide us through our next chapter here at Canutillo. Thank you for your service. To present you with your gift, we have from Alderete Middle School, counselors Ms. Valdez, with 8th graders Hugo Sanchez and Esther Alceaga, as well as 6th grader Emma Coronado.
And I can be your campus. I see her. Thank you. She'll hold it for me. Yes, I'll hold it for her. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, I didn't know there is a wonderful.
I'll hold yours. I'll help you with just a little bit. You guys take a picture. Do you want me to holding the stuff?
Yes.
Or? Oh, never mind.
I'll do it.
You can help me. Will you help me hold it? You can have the greatest food if you want.
Okay, everybody get into this group one. Okay, and then Ms. Borrego, just by yourself.
Hold
Don't-
it? Yes.
Students and staff members don't leave because at the end we're going to take a group picture with everyone, okay?
Thank you. Don't confuse mine with, because it is broken. Thank you so much again. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Your life, okay? Just remember that.
No, I'm the counselor representing the administration. So
Our proud board secretary, Ms. Cindy Zuniga, is a proud Canutillo alumni. Ms. Zuniga, your readiness to assist, coupled with your delightful tamales from Tamales Lupita, brings comfort, support, and warmth to every corner of our community. Thank you for stepping up to lead. As a special treat, we have the principal of Davenport Elementary School, Ms. Montañez, along with 5th grader, Jose Angel Zuniga, 4th grader, here to present your gift.
all of those are yours. These are mine. You're gonna yeah.
Hey Lucy, get out a picture.
Camera first, you do the report too. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Put your basket down a little. Put it down. There you go. Let's get one more place. There we go. All right, and then one just by yourself.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
We next recognize Trustee Brianne Barnes, a former CISD teacher. Ms. Barnes, your insight into educational issues, your advocacy for teachers and parents, and your dedication to transparency and accountability make you a treasured member of our board, and an invaluable asset to our community. Thank you for your service. Here to present Ms. Barnes with her gift is San Luis High School Principal Ms. Marruco, along with seniors Ivy Rivera and Mia Leppa.
I'd like to say it's heavier than me, but. All right, everybody gather in. Smile.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you, bye-bye. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you so much. How you doing? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Nancy Mendoza brings unmatched experience as an alumni and retired CISD employee. Ms. Mendoza, your deep understanding of Saltillo's history and traditions enriches our perspective and guides us forward as we continue to marry our proud past with our exciting future. Thank you for your insight and your leadership. Here to present her gift is Children's Elementary Principal Ms. Varela, along with fourth grader Germán Caraballo, who might have a couple of words to say as well.
Good evening, board members. My name is Frank Gomez. I'm proudly representing the Bill Children's Elementary Student Council, the student body, and staff at my school. On behalf of the BCE community, we want you to know that we really value your dedication to Canadeo. Our student council members have created thank you cards and a handcrafted mug for each one. The mug was designed to have a school mascot, the golden eagle, representing the values we live by at BCE: to soar high and to be strong. The mug you will find an assortment of candy. Each one was a special one. 2-0, 12-year-old differences. Service for wrist energy when needed. Carrier pad to help you keep cool. Snickers to remind you to keep your sense of humor. Bubblegum to help you get through sticky situations again. And kisses to show all the love you deserve. Thank you for giving your best. Have a good night.
Is it a skinny lemon? No, I think.
What is your name? You did a great job.
Mr. Cimental could be with us today, but we're still going to recognize him. We're going to ask Board President Board President Rodriguez to stand in for Mr. Pimental. Mr. Pimental is a CHS graduate and a grandparent of CISD students. Mr. Pimental, his long-standing commitment to our district, even as our newest board member, is truly commendable. We thank him for his tireless contribution to our district. To celebrate Mr. Pimental, we have Reyes Elementary School Principal Dr. Melendez Carrillo, along with 5th grader Edith Raymond.
Oh, look, I like your shoes. Why not? Oh, you don't? Can you sing a cappella? You know what that means? A cappella?
Yes.
That means with no music or anything, just like that. Yeah, that's a cappella.
The other guy.
Oh, wait, picture. I was. I was talking to the kid.
Awesome.
Woo! Thank you so much.
We'll just separate that between everybody here.
Thank you so much.
We next honor Trustee Blanca Trout, a master trustee who has championed mental health initiatives. Ms. Trout, your efforts to serve our students and community continue to make a profound impact, and your work will leave a legacy of excellence in our district. Here to present Ms. Trout with a gift is Cantillo Elementary Principal Andrea Espasa, along with 5th grader Sophie Reyes.
Ready? Let's put this together. Smile. Awesome. And then scrap.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Our student advisor, Gus Ayala from Cantillo High School, exemplifies student leadership. Thus, your diverse interest and commitment to the Eagle legacy set a remarkable example for your peers. Thank you for stepping up and serving in this role. To honor Gus, we have his peers from Northwest Early College High School, Principal Mr. Clark and juniors Joe Quebec, Palma, and Anissa Marquez. You might need a little help carrying stuff.
Alright, let's put together. Let's have, let's see. Let's have, what one? Yeah, there. Perfect. Awesome. And then Gustavo, put one by yourself. Awesome, thank you.
Speaking of Northwest, we would also like to recognize our other student advisor, Paris Castello, who couldn't be with us tonight. So we're going to ask, is she here?
She's right here.
Oh, she's not here. Come on in.
Tarde pero sin sueño. Come on. O con sueño.
Come on in, over here, Paris. So we recognize student advisor Paris Castello, a senior at Northwest Early College High School. Paris, your advocacy for early college education and commitment to your studies is inspired. You are truly paving the way for future success. Paris, to honor you, we have some of our little ones. Please help us welcome Garcia Elementary Principal Ms. Alarcon along with 5th grader Jonathan Castorena. Last but certainly not least is our 10th member of this team. While he's technically not on the school board, it is his leadership that brings this whole ship together. Superintendent Dr. Pedro Galaviz is a rarity, a long-serving superintendent in a high-performing school district. Thank you, Dr. G, for your insight, leadership, and support. He just walked out of the room.
Ready to go?
Dr. G.
Here to present you with a small token of appreciation is Cantillo Middle School Assistant Principal, Mr. Harbison.
They lost, right? What happened? I have.
Oh.
It had to be the glass.
Smile.
All right, if we could have all the principals and students that participated, please come up. We're going to do a group photo.
I like number 33.
Yes.
These are my guys right here. Like AMS. Yes, I good to see
We need some people over here too.
Yes, of course.
This crowd asked me to read this resolution into the record from the State of Texas Office of the Governor. As a nation always looking toward the future, we are continuously challenged to ensure that young Americans are empowered with the diligence, skills, and responsibility necessary to succeed at the challenges before them. It is through a quality education that we place students firmly on the path to a lifetime of excellence and achievement. This has been the mission of educators and administrators throughout our state. Ensuring an excellent education is the work of many, and local school boards collaborate with teachers, parents, and stakeholders to promote state and national standards in ways that reflect the community's values. By so doing, they inspire a lifelong love of learning for the next generation of Texas leaders. At this time, we encourage all Texans to celebrate the more than 7,000 school board members across the Lone Star State. The commitment to education and the communities represents the best of Texas, and they will have a key role to play as we strive to secure the future of the Lone Star State. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes tonight's presentation. Thank you, School Board. Happy School Board Recognition. Thank you all.
I will take us to item 3.
Item number 3, board honors. Open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with district policy BED local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. For further information on these policies, please contact the superintendent's administrative assistant.
Okay. Is there anybody sign up?
We have one person for tonight's meeting. It's going to be Ms. Maria Castillo, Jose Damian Elementary Principal, who would like to thank the board for the opportunity.
Hello, Dr. Galaviz and board members. My name is Maria Castillo. Everybody knows me as Maggie. I was appointed as the principal of Jose Damian on January 2nd of this month. So I would like to extend my gratitude for the opportunity and investment you have taken in me. I am a proud product of Canudillo, just like many of you guys are. I graduated back in 1999. I gave my age there. But I'm grateful to have the opportunity to give back to the community. Although I do not have millions, which I wish I did, to help us with the budget constraints and our facilities, but what I can share is an investment in our future scholars. I have been at Jose Damian for a month, and what I can tell you is that our teachers and staff are resilient and hardworking. Our students are sponges, gaining knowledge and beaming with pride. I thank you for the opportunity that was extended to me to become a Firebird and to continue to be part of the Canudillo family. Once again, thank you for believing in me, and I will work the best to my capacity every single day. Thank you for all you do, and happy Appreciation Month. Thank you.
That will take us to the next item.
Item number 4, Board of Trustees business. Discussion regarding the current budget and plans to address future budgets, including options related to the reduction of cost, personnel, and financial condition of the district. Presenter, Ms. Christy Ford.
It's in here.
Can we also have it uploaded for is it already uploaded to the board book?
Oh, it's finished yet this
Okay.
time.
Or we could just upload it that way. Okay.
Good evening, Board President Rodriguez, board members, Dr. Galaviz. We're bringing you an update of the budget. After our budget workshop last week, we went back to the drawing board, and we're going to start where we left off at that budget workshop. And so we're addressing the final number that we're projecting. I'm going to take that back, not final. This is a projection, this is an estimate, it can change. The deficit of $3.3 million. This has grown from the original $3 million that was adopted because there has been budget amendments done. And then this also takes into consideration any savings that we have currently projected in the current budget. We do anticipate to add an additional 170 back to the budget because we do have projected bond costs that we'll need to pay for if, the board so chooses to move. As well as we've also identified additional ESSER savings. So what we'll do with those is that, we'll transfer some of the items that have been paid out of the general fund, we'll transfer over to ESSER, to free up some of that budget. There was also a, personnel reduction that took place on January 19th on Friday. And that will generate about $300,000 in salary savings. And there's also, we identified some technology savings of about $8,000. Our current budget that we anticipate to have for the current fiscal year is about $2.8 million. For your consideration, administration has taken significant cost-saving measures to get to this number. Although we do realize that there is still a $2.8 million deficit in the current budget, any additional cuts to the budget would be detrimental to the district. It would affect day-to-day operations and could be crippling to just everything that the district does on a day-to-day basis. For fiscal year 2025, we are developing a plan to address the entire $5.9 million deficit that we anticipate for the next fiscal year. However, these cost-saving measures we'll have to make some difficult decisions. But some of these decisions is going to be contingent on the passage of a resolution for financial exigency. This may be one of the avenues that we may want to take, but that, of course, will be the decision of the board, whether we execute the financial exigency. Questions or additional information?
What I would like to, just moving forward, I know we're gonna have to have a serious discussion, you know, each month, whether it's a workshop, and then making sure we have that discussion at the board. Looking at last fiscal year's budget, we were looking at a $6 million deficit. The board with the administration said go back to the drawing board and make sure it was within the $3 million. The question that we also, I want to tell the story because it's important for our community to understand. I believe it was in May, and it would have been nice to research, but we could show where actually the legislator had provided the amount that they were looking at, and that's probably about a $3 million deficit. I mean, it totaled up. Do you recall those numbers? When the legislator, there's probably in May, and then I think the last one to look at. So that way the community could also see, because of the inaction of the legislator, it also is just compounding the problem here in our local community and just the tough times that we're in, not wanting to lose our hardworking employees that have given themselves to this district. But I want to make sure we tell the story when it comes to the legislator. Matt, how many times? 4 or 5? So if we could, they met 4, I believe, special sessions and then the legislative session, and still no inaction. And so I think it's important for the community to see that, as well as I guess we could combine this presentation with the budget workshop. And that way is there any questions or?
I have a comment.
Okay.
For the next budget workshop that I would like to see, and maybe it's not a big impact on the budget, but I understand that we pay local days to retirees. We're the only district in El Paso that does that because it is costly, but I'm not aware, I need numbers and some research on that. I'm not aware of what it costs us in a small district to do that, but paying employees for their days not used at the end is costly. So I'd just like some data on that, just so I can make an educated decision.
So I would like some clarification on some of the numbers that are on the second page of the presentation. So I do see some ESSER savings here. would it be possible for us to see a breakdown of that? Because all the conversations that we have really had over the last year that I can remember, anytime ESSER has been brought up, we've said that that money's already accounted for. So I'm interested to see how all of a sudden that is a savings of $350,000.
Correct, so, most of this is coming from salary savings. So we do have some positions that are still funded through ESSER. However, as they are aware that this is soft money and it will go away in June, they are leaving the district or finding other positions, and those positions are not being filled. So it has generated about $350,000 in salary savings.
Based off of those salaries that
Correct.
we will not renew for next year. Okay, that answers that for me. In regard to the projected bond costs, is that for is the election in general included in there?
Correct, so the election is projected to cost about $100,000 and $70,000 for surveys, marketing materials, anything that may be related to bond.
You said 11,000 for the election?
No, 100,000.
I was gonna say 11,000, I was like, I can't be hearing that right. 100,000 for the election and plus another 70 for the
Materials,
marketing and so on.
marketing surveys.
Now, does that include the May and the November elections?
No, ma'am, this is just for the May election.
So what would, we would be paying that $100,000 again for the November election? So due to the fiscal situation that we are currently in, wouldn't it be more fiscally responsible for us to wait until May and put all of those things on one ballot and only pay the amount once? Or do you pay it twice regardless?
The cost actually escalates if you have two items up for approval.
Okay.
Because the last time that we did have both election and a bond, our costs were about 75% more than what we would have just paid for just the board election.
So 75% more is still more than 100% though, right?
Correct.
So we would save 25% of the cost.
I wouldn't be able to tell you what the county would charge us, but I do know that I was expecting just a small margin of increase. However, it was almost double what we would normally pay for a board election.
Now, if we were to call the elections office now and find out what those costs would be for November versus May, would they be able to give us numbers to us now for us to see?
We can check with them to see if they're able to give us at least some kind of a projection.
I mean, I know it's going to be minimal, but at this point, we're counting pennies. So to me, it's worth it to find out if it would be beneficial to us. I have some questions for administration about the personnel reduction. Can you tell us how many positions were cut? I don't know who that question is geared to. Martha. Okay, I'm sorry. You said Martha Carrasco?
Mr. Blanco, can we share that since it's personnel?
I'm not
She's
asking for
asking for the
names.
name, she's asking
No.
for the number.
I'm just
Okay,
asking
I
for
just
the
wanted to
number.
clarify.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
HR identified 13 positions. Some of those positions were already vacant. And so basically it was 8 people that I met with on Friday.
So 8 current and then the rest were vacant, correct?
Yes, they were vacant.
Speaking of that, my understanding is the people who were vacant, we talked about those positions when we discussed financials the last time, and my understanding was that was already included in our amount saved. So are we double counting that money?
Finance has reached out today, and we had a cabinet meeting, and they said they had already included that in the savings. From the HR perspective, until we close the PCN, then that position is budgeted for in the budget already. And once the PCN is closed, at that point, then the money is released for savings. I know if they counted that, then I believe we went back and looked at it, and it was about $50,000 shy of the amount that's on there.
So the vacant positions only accounted for about $50,000.
That's what I am looking at, yes, based on the numbers that we ran this morning.
Okay. And then the current positions, and I don't know if we're allowed to, because I'm not asking for names, but where did those positions come from? What type of positions were cut?
They were at-will positions, and we looked at some of the positions at district-wide.
But we can't state from what departments those came from, so that.
It was various departments.
But that information can't be given?
Not if it's gonna identify individuals. You can get it later yourself as a
Okay.
trustee.
And I don't need individual names, I'm just wondering what, departments were impacted with this decision, so that's my main question there. And then, what criteria was used to select those names?
There was various criteria. We looked at, there was one that was impacted because of program change. Then there was, it was done also by looking at seniority listing. There were some positions that were individual positions. At that point, the position was looked at as far as the value or the contribution to the district. We were looking at that also.
And
single positions.
Okay, and then in regard to the way that they were selected, were the supervisors of those departments also included in those decisions, or is that something that admin just took on?
Yes, the administration advised the supervisors as far as the cuts. However, in cabinet or a reduced cabinet with Dr. Galaviz, superintendent was the one that we looked at all the positions together.
So discussions were had with supervisors about what would be best for their department?
The discussions were had with the superintendent. Once those positions were determined, then I did reach out to supervisors and talk to them about it.
I think that's all of my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have questions as well. My colleague already asked something that really concerns me a lot. I just wanted to know those $300,000 savings from personnel reduction. 13 positions we lost already, which shouldn't be necessary. I have a question. I don't know if it's for you, Dr. Galaviz. Are these $300,000 were already cut? Did you already finish with cutting the personnel?
Yes.
So you're not going to cut any more personnel?
I can't say no. I can just say that we're asking the board to leave us with a 2.8. And if the board is okay with 2.8, the board can come back and say, you know what, we want 2.8 to go to 2. So what we're saying, as Ms. Foley was saying, is that if we cut more, then we're going to start looking at bus drivers, other at-will positions locally in the district. We're already at shorthand when it comes to bus drivers.
So you're not done yet?
Well, I'd like to be done.
Yes, definitely, because it's something that really hurts too much, particularly shouldn't be this necessary. I remember when the board meeting of May 23, when Mrs. Carrasco, she came with a lot of petitions that she wanted a lot of positions back then. She asked so many positions that maybe you request as well. So we followed administration recommendation. Of course that we trust in our administration. So that time, Mrs. Carrasco, you knew that it was a deficit. My question, why not the personnel that it was already lost their positions, why they were not advised back then, so they could have a better chance to go and look for a job. Now it's kind of late because all the school districts, most of them, they already closed their positions. But we knew that it was a deficit since back May. With all these positions that you request, I remember there was so many that we had to cut, that we said we don't need that many positions. So now my question as well, did you took this in consideration back then, Mrs. Carrasco?
Ms. Mrs. Trout, those positions were requested by the various departments at the time. When we came to you, to the board for that request, it appeared that those positions could be supported with the budget and the ESSER money. So that's why we requested those positions, and it was approved. I believe, as Ms. Pulley has said, since then, there's been multiple amendments that have been approved by the board, thus reducing our budget even more. So now I think we're playing catch up, and we're trying to remedy the situation and correct it as best we can.
But when your department and administration knew that it was a deficit since back then. So I do believe in your word that it was okay to get more employees to be hired. Now, you said that we already lost 13 positions. My question is, why to the vacant positions that we have, why you didn't move the persons that they already lost their job?
Currently, if there's any vacant positions, I believe to the individuals that I spoke to on Friday, if there was a vacant position that they could fit into and they wanted to transfer, we would do that. But only if the position was already an open position. Not everybody that I talked to qualified for, like I said, I have like a special ed position. I mean, you've got to be certified to be able to fit in that position. So that's what I'm saying. If they qualified for a position and we could accommodate them, we did.
Well, and also as well, for example, I just want to clarify this, that I feel so sorry for the personnel that they already lost their positions because of bad administration, because bad decisions, because we didn't know on time, because we trust in administration that you guys are running everything good. I know that situations happen, and now we are here to take hard decisions. But I just want to clarify that I'm not agree with that. I don't want to harm any impact in the persons that they already lost their jobs, because their families are suffering, their economy are suffering, the psychological impact that they have, plus on top of it, they don't have enough time to go search for another job in another school district. So hopefully we could find another way, Dr. Galaviz, to get to this $300,000 instead of cutting personnel. We could come from another source. We could cut from, I don't know which one's your administration here. You guys are the ones who give us the recommendations. But I just want to underline that I'm not agree with those persons and the personnel that they keep losing their job because of bad decisions.
Absolutely. I think we agree with you, and we're open to suggestions if any of you all have any suggestions that we could follow.
Yes, and Adrian, I want it for the record, please. Thank you.
Mr. President. So for the record, with all due respect, I don't like that we've lost employees, but it's not the administration's fault only. It's our fault too. We have to take responsibility because we're the board. We have a fiscal responsibility to look at finances, and so even if they recommend it, our job is to question. And so if we're not in agreement, then we need to question that and vote no. It can't just be all on administration. We're a team. We're a team as a board. We are a team with administration, and we all work together in this. And so we can't just point the finger. We're all in this mess, and we have to really reflect and look at how we are going to do what's best for kids in general. It's not one thing or another, it's a lot of things collective, but the responsibility falls on every single one of us up here, because we're the governing board, and ultimately we could say no, or we can question, like I did just a little bit ago, where I said, hey, tell me what we're doing, I want some research on it. We could all ask that. So with that being said, being in a deficit is not an easy place to be as a school district. We have to address it. Unfortunately, this had to happen, but we can remedy it by working together as a team. But divided, we will get nowhere. So with that being said, we need to all come together and put our heads together on what we're going to do. Whatever our belief systems are, whether the administration believes one way, the board believes another way, but it has to be all of us together.
I would add to that, that it also includes the legislator and the inaction of the legislature. And that's what I was looking at. I mean, we had a $32 billion surplus, and not once did they ever provide money for public education. They pushed vouchers 4 times, and still nothing happened, and we're at this point. And we adopted the budget. I remember adopting the budget. We gave raises before we knew what the revenues were going to be. So it's not healthy for us to be putting blame because we're all to blame. I remember those $6 million. I fought hard just to get into those. You know, we'll meet you at half, and hoping that the legislator at one point would come and give us that money that originally was told. And that's why I want that story told. Like in May, I know there was a Texas Tribune article that had the amount of money, the formula that we would fund, and I think we were at like 2.5 to 3.2 million if they would have passed legislation. And then there was the last House bill, so I would like to reference those too, because I know that the House came out with a bill to fund public education, and that would have helped with our deficit. But the saddest thing is losing some of our best employees, but there's no other option. We can't continue to use money that we don't have. And the whole, I guess within the story, going towards, you know, not the surplus, the rainy day fund, where we're at on that way we could just continue to have that consistent story, so that way whoever's here understands how we got here and what we need to do to balance our budget. We balanced our budget. As a matter of fact, how many times did we balance our budget?
For the past 8 years.
The past 8 years we had a balanced budget. The district and the staff, we all worked together on making sure we had a balanced budget and be the good fiscal stewards of our community. This year, we wanted to make sure our employees were paid right, and there's other stuff that we wanted, and this is the consequences we're facing. And so we're gonna have tough decisions continuing to look at, because if we're looking at next year with a $6 million deficit, and we continue to see no help from the governor or the legislator, then we're just gonna compound the problem, and it's going to be a skeleton for that. And we've talked about those manning tables, like how is it that a campus is going to look like if we don't get, there's talks about closing the school and merging the middle schools. We're going to have to make sure that we balance the budget to do what we need to do, which we were elected to do, and be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. Hoping that we don't have, there's going to be an impact that try to minimize the impact that we're specifically here for, and which is our kids.
I would like to add something, and this is not something that happened to us in 1 year. It has been ongoing. It's consequences of a lot of decisions that have been made in the past, whether you believe strongly in one and strongly in the other. It's something that has caught up with us. Very fortunate. Good teamwork to balance 8 years in a row, but these are consequences of things in the past as well. We need to increase our enrollment. We've looked at numbers. Gus has provided that for us on how much money we would make if we would brought back students to our school district that are in other school districts, and we can do that. We have to put our heads together, and that should be our #1 goal, is bringing back students, because we do not make money per se on taxes. We make money on student attendance and students that are enrolled in our schools. So we need to come together as a community of Cantillo. You have to come to Cantillo to buy a Porsche. Do you guys know that? I mean, that's how progressive we are. And I loved hearing that from our financial advisor. We are an amazing community, but we have to make sure that we bring our kids back to this amazing community, because that will increase our enrollment, which will allow us to have the money that we need to provide for our students. And we have to keep telling ourselves that it's about the kids. It's about the kids and what they deserve in this community.
I have a comment. Back in May, I was president of the board, and I truly felt that we needed to and Mr. Rodriguez is certainly right, that we were expecting money from the legislature that we didn't receive. But I truly felt in my heart that we needed to provide our employees with a significant raise, which we did. I only have one question. I know that we've done a lot of cost-saving measures. Have we gotten rid of all our contracted services?
No, there's still some contracted services. Some are necessary. We don't have the personnel to be able to fulfill whatever duties that contractor is doing.
Is it mainly special ed? I'm sorry to interrupt.
We
Is it
do
mainly special
have
ed?
special ed. We contract several out of facilities. There's different services that are provided through contracted services.
Could we have a report regarding the contracted services and where they lie? And the last thing is, I wanted to, I know that cutting positions and making hard budgetary cuts, it's hard to do. It really is hard to do. I mean, I look out in the audience and I think, you know, there by the grace of God go I, because I was an employee of kind of deal. I'd like to commend Dr. Galaviz and his staff for really working hard and taking the time to make sure that those people that were lost their position, and it's only 8, or not only 8, but 8 positions. The rest, according to Ms. Carrasco, were vacant. Is that correct, Ms. Carrasco? And so, you know, those are hard decisions, but that's what we all get paid the big bucks for, especially us at this table. We're the ones that the buck stops here. So, you know, thank you, Dr. Carlos.
I have some more questions, and I guess, so 85% of our our budget is based upon salaries, right?
Correct.
And just looking at the maintenance, Bruno's budget, which is $500K, my understanding. I mean, there's so many factors that came into play even before, right? Whether it was pre-COVID, COVID, and then the fact that we started losing numbers around that time too. So I'm hoping that we could get that all and so the discussion we've had as a board, and going back to Dr. Galaviz, you did speak to everybody in regards to personally, right?
Yes.
Just because I don't want people to think that the board didn't know. We've known that we've been in this situation for a long time. But going back to, one is balancing the budget, and then the other is going to have to be, let's say, if we need to start funding those maintenance costs, because $2,000 for a gallon of whatever the gas is versus buying a new one, which is $10,000. We're just going to continue to have maintenance issues, so we're going to have to figure out how we fund some of that maintenance within the budget, because the state does not provide that money.
One of the things, President Rodriguez, that you asked us to do if the bond is not passed, I mean, the Guadalupe Elementary, the facility assessment committee will be there tomorrow. There's a folder, list, a priority list to fix the roof at Guadalupe Elementary, the school that needs most repairs. 1.5 million. HVAC is Northwestern College, it's 5 million. The high school, the HVAC, the second priority is 13 million. So, this is how we would have to prioritize.
And they're prioritizing numbers?
Yes. So if you wanted to take care of County Elementary next year, you'd have to find 1.5 in next year's budget.
That's roof.
That's just the roof. So you have to prioritize roof or HVAC. You got Northwest Early College, and again, we were over there on that Saturday, facility assessment, because their HVAC and all those outdoor units, 5 million.
Okay.
So,
Mr.
$500,000, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. G. Before we pass to that one, that is very important. I do have a small question.
Okay.
If we are cutting personnel from the deficit of 355,826 or 2,897,826.
We are reduced, so the 3.55 is where we are from where we left off at the budget workshop after identifying savings.
Okay.
And then these are additional measures that have been taken, or that will be taken as well, to get down to 2.8 million.
So how much we already saved from out of 3,555,826?
The 350, the 300, and the 800.
Okay, so it gives us already in deficit 2,897,626. Okay, thank you so much.
Can I actually do
Another question.
So I have another question about our total here, and this will kind of play into something that's on our consent agenda that I was going to ask the pool, so we don't have to if it's covered here. When looking at our monthly financials, I was seeing the healthcare cost deficit that was shown there, and I emailed Dr. Key with these questions, which I know we forwarded on to Martha. So thank you for that. I did have a follow-up question that wasn't asked in my understanding was that the deficit that was shown in that healthcare is not included in these numbers. Is that correct?
Correct. And then that was one of the slides that's for still pending information that we may have to fund up to $2 to $3 million to recover on the healthcare fund.
Ms. Burns, can I add something to you?
Yes,
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that's very important. That's something we need to look at. I would like some research on small districts our size in the state of Texas. They're on TRS insurance. TRS insurance is good insurance. That would help our problem tremendously. Not $300,000 from an election and $300,000 from, or how much ever we lost with 5 employees. We really need to look at healthcare, and I would like for our next budget workshop to do some research on small districts like us in Texas. How many of them are on TRS insurance? And it's good insurance, and that we get an unbiased opinion on TRS insurance, because that'll save us millions. Millions, it really will. That is something that fiscally we need to look at that, absolutely. And I think that people have a misconception because we get vendors that come in and tell us about TRS, and well, of course they don't want us to go with TRS because it doesn't help their company. We don't want that. We want to hear truly what TRS is about and go from there.
Just when I go, we did have TRS come down and visit with us, and they had a presentation for us because that was a consideration for us to move into TRS.
I remember that, but what I
yes.
would like is I didn't hear that presentation because I've heard the presentation somewhere else. I won't say where, no, I'm kidding. But I want to hear it because I'm getting it secondhand, and I'm not sure that we're making an educated decision. That doesn't mean that I want to switch right away, but I would like some information to make an informed decision that I hear.
I can provide you with the documentation that they came back with as far as the rates that they wanted to charge Canopio. And I believe at that time we decided not to go with TRS but I will share that information with you and the board, because they did quote us and give us rates, and we found that it was not feasible for our employees.
And I'm sorry, and I know it's still yours, Dan, and I apologize. I could promise you that everybody on this board doesn't understand TRS insurance. They don't. I promise you, because it's not, we're getting, and I'm not saying, I mean, we're getting a version, that is not, we need to hear it for ourselves, and maybe we need to have them come in for a board workshop so that we could talk to them. But I think that insurance is a big savings, can be a big savings for us. And I think it's going to be very telling. Let's just start with this before we contact TRS. Do the research on how many small school districts in the state of Texas, the small ones, let's say 12,000 or less students. Would you guys say that's fair? 12,000 or less?
That's fine.
Are on TRS insurance. You know why? Because small districts can't afford, even big districts now, because there's no money from the legislature. They're moving over.
And yes, we have that information. Like I said, I'll send you all the documentation, and I just wanted to clarify just that the representatives from TRS, not our TPA or not any of the vendors that have come in to visit with us. It was actually the representatives from TRS that came in and met with our administration.
And if I may add to that, is that not the information that you gave us at our last insurance talk where we discussed the TRS was not as low as we initially anticipated? Is that same information?
Yes, ma'am, it is the
That's
same
what I thought.
information, yes.
Okay.
And that, like I said, that came directly from TRS. So that was them, and like I said, they flew down and they met with us, with administration here, and that was the information they provided us and the rates that they quoted us.
Perfect. And so, I guess to continue with that, my follow-up question that I had asked that I did not receive an answer for, I want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly so that our community is understanding correctly. If that possible $2 to $3 million, is that based off the last estimate that we received from open enrollment? That was my question, is what was the last estimate that we received after open enrollment of what we could be looking at?
Correct, that's based on prior enrollment. We don't have a projection for our current enrollment. Of course, enrollment happened in our new year, started January. So once this month passes, because benefits, we'll be able to do additional estimates.
So I'm the type, when I budget, I always budget worst case scenario and hope for the best, right? So if that was the case, instead of it being a projected deficit of $5.9 million for the 24-25 school year, we would be looking at almost $9 million. Is that correct?
Correct. The $2 to $3 million would come from fund balance. It would not come from operations.
Plus the additional 5.9 that we're looking at for other things.
Right.
So we would be looking at possibly taking $9 million from our fund balance.
Correct.
And if that was the case, how many operational days would we have? Do you have any idea?
At $6 million, I believe the days were 23 days.
So if it was 9, it would be even less than that. A lot less than that.
We're bankrupting ourselves.
Exactly. So to piggyback on that, Mr. Rodriguez said we would be bankrupting ourselves, and that's kind of where I was going with this question, because that's my concern. And I don't think that when we're talking about budget, if we're not including healthcare in that discussion, we're doing ourselves a disjustice. And I honestly think that's part of the issue of what we have had over the last few years and why we're in the situation that we are in. I can tell you as a community member, I sat in those seats where you guys are right now, and I remember you guys presenting the healthcare and saying, we are on a slippery slope, we need to do something, we can't keep putting band-aids on it, we can't continue to take money out of the general fund, and we continue to do that. And now we're in the situation that we're in, and with all due respect, I agree with you, Mr. Rodriguez, that the state legislature, we had inaction, right, which we did not have money from that, and I'm disappointed with that as well, regardless of where I stand with the state legislature. But the fact is we can't, if we're looking at households, our household budgets, I can't sit here and make a budget off of a raise that I hope to get. And I feel like that's what we've been doing. We're hoping that we get more money from the legislature. We're hoping that we get more money from the bonds to cover deferred maintenance. We're hoping this, we're hoping that, we're hoping healthcare gets better. And then when it doesn't, we wonder why that is and want to point fingers and blame people for it. No, that's our responsibility. We need to sit up here, look at these numbers and say, this is bad, and what are we going to do to fix it? And it's not just bad now, it's been bad. So how do we address the mistakes that we've made in the past to move forward? One of those mistakes, if I can, Ms. Rodriguez, you brought up another good point, that we discussed raises and compensation before we discussed revenue and our budget. Who does that? I think we need to look at our calendar and we need to switch those things around. We should be talking about how much money we have before we spend it. Right? Is that not what we do in our household? So, I mean, I think the bullet point of talking about things that we can do to reduce costs and all of this future planning, that's number one. We shouldn't be spending money before we have it, regardless if that's revenues versus expenditures, or if that's compensation and raises, if that's insurance, if that's bonds, if that's whatever it is. We shouldn't be spending money before it's in our bank to spend. That's the first thing. The other thing about the state legislature and talking about that story that you want to tell, and I agree with you, that does need to be said, because we do need help. All of the districts need help with just inflation alone, right? We're managing on the same amount of money with, I've heard numbers of 20% inflation in our economy, right? So it's ridiculous. But we're also, in my opinion, telling a story about the $19 million that we would be saving for the enrollment that would be coming back. I think we need to make sure we are being very careful with that number, because we're talking about the money that we make for enrollment, but we're not talking about the amount of money that we spend to educate those kids. So not all of that money is going to be revenue. Does that make sense? Or am I misunderstanding that number?
It's only projected.
Yes, but so we are saying we lose 1,800 students a year, right? And each of those students, we get so much money from the state, so on and so forth. But it also costs us money. It costs us facilities, it costs us teachers, it costs us their textbooks, so on and so forth, to educate those kids. So how much of that money is actually revenue per child, so that we are making sure we're going out into the community and giving information that is valid and not fluffing numbers that's going to end up hurting us anyway.
And I agree with that. You're going to be surprised that it's more revenue than you think.
I'm sure it is, but
Yeah.
let's just make sure it's accurate.
And economies of scale in regards to student growth.
That's true.
I mean, so there's the other thing is that there's misconceptions out in the community with all the growth that we've had on the property tax base, which 20% that's 20% of our budget, right? In regards to
Revenue
from the tax base.
It's probably closer to 40%.
40%?
So we have a balancing, of course, property taxes is only half the formula, but overall, the funding for any Texas school district is based on the funding formula from the state. So if property taxes go up, the state funding will go down. And it's almost dollar for dollar. So the only way to generate additional revenue will be enrollment in students.
And I think that point is really important, because I still get calls, and I didn't know this as a community member. I thought, we have all of this growth and all of this new property taxes coming in. Where is all that money going, right? And to somebody who doesn't understand it, like myself at that point, I thought that's such a waste of dollars. But after sitting through all of the trainings and everything that we have gone through, we realize it basically nullifies itself. And so our community doesn't know that. What I'm saying about the information that we are giving to the community, we need to make sure it's clear. It's I don't want to say layman's terms, but we can't use all of this special jargon and expect for people to understand. Put it in their household budget and explain it to them that way. If you do that, it makes sense. And so I want to make sure the community understands, yes, we have more property taxes coming in, but because of that formula that Ms. Pulley is talking about, the dollars nullify each other. We don't get more money from the state because of the extra. that's true. In some cases, we actually got less because of the property taxes, depending on the formula that's given from the state that year. So it's things like that, those misconceptions that our community has that are easy to clear up if we are clear and concise with our language in discussing of things.
And probably for the next, we've been looking at toolkits, and I provided the toolkits and some of the other stuff. I think our financial advisors were going to work on a toolkit like Bond 101, so it was more like that presentation. I think we need to work on a toolkit for the district, so that way we could help educate the conversation of, it deals with declining enrollment, inflationary costs, the insurance costs, the inaction from the legislature and maintenance. So I think it's how we're gonna communicate this to the community is gonna be something critical, because there's gonna be a lot of tough decisions we're gonna have to make in the next year.
Well, and I think if we have our PR department work on an FAQ page, it's easy in layman's terms, because if us as educators don't understand it, can you imagine the community? So in FAQ, you put, do my property taxes go up if blah, 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 and then we put in another color the answer. So all the misconceptions that we've heard, and what Brianne talked about, Ms. Barnes talked about, is in an FAQ where it's easy to read, a one-pager, where we address all those misconceptions. Because I agree, there's a lot of misconceptions out there where people don't understand. And I think we need to include that one question on ADA that she talked about earlier, is how much is revenue and how much is it to run. Correct.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'm sure you probably haven't been sleeping as well, but I mean, there's tough decisions that we have to make. It's not pretty, but if we don't do it, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing as members of this community.
Thank you.
I will take us to the next item.
I'm sorry. Are we not discussing any other future plans?
We're gonna have a board workshop, budget workshop.
Well, we talked about that. They was give us a better synopsis of district budget. And then the following workshop, we're gonna have to have the fiscal year for next year, as well as the fiscal year to include maintenance costs.
And that's where we would be discussing financial exigency at that.
And the other options that.
And they'll bring us what we've requested at the next budget workshop, which would be, there's several things that I asked for. No, not yet, no.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consent agenda voting.
I move to approve. I'll second as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Or, sorry, pull aboard. I'm doing it.
I know.
Ms. Barnes?
No. Yes.
Ms. Borrego?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes.
I'll take us to the next item.
Item number 6, meeting adjournment. Time is 7:18.
Thank you so much. And you're not at the oral.
Yeah,